still works, okay? I'm gonna start from the beginning again. The night old Wesleyan went up in flames.
I was a very different person back then, and I wasn't like loud and proud about the fact that I was a piano songwriter. And I wasn't like thrusting my demo in people's faces and being like, come to my show. I was really shy. And I didn't have a band, and I didn't try and put together a band. It was kind of all beyond me at the time. I was mostly just too busy hiding. So for all I know, there was probably a really fertile music scene, but I was missing it. Yeah. I wasn't part of it.
Cool.
You know, what I also found frustrating with Wesleyan was I was really interested in music, but I didn't feel like, looking through the course book, I was like, Balinese dancing, musicology, you know, Japanese Kyoto, like, where are the rock courses? Yeah. I want to learn, you know, and it wasn't quite for me, because I was so much more narrow-minded back then. I mean, now I'd be like, oh my God, gamelan, that's incredible. I want to learn about different kinds of music. But back then, I was just very interested in what I was interested in.
Yeah. And
it had nothing to do with world music and nothing to do with, you know, I would have creamed to see, like, you know, Brit rock, Brit pop, you know, like the early years of The Cure 101, and I would have just been like, ah. But also, I was fucking 18, 19, and 20, and what I really wanted to do was, like, get out and rock. And I saw college as kind of an impediment. Any education in music is an education in music. You can't learn anything about music as a musician that doesn't help you. The big project that I did my senior year was actually, it wasn't technically a thesis. My technical thesis was a play in German.
Wow.
That was performed upstairs here back when this was the campus center. But my senior year, I convinced Alvin Lucier and Leslie Weinberg to give me each a credit for an independent study, because I wanted to do a performance art project, and I wanted credit. So I was obsessed with my own inability to finish songs, and so I made a piece about it. It was like a 90-minute performance art piece about my inability to finish songs. And it was a one-woman show, mostly done behind a screen with a projection from the back. It was like amazingly cliched, but beautiful and sincere. And over the course of the show, so if you can imagine that there's this screen, and then there was a big coat rack behind it. So the screen starts out blank. And over the course of the year, I collected a bunch of cassette tapes and VHS tapes and basically anything that had magnetic tape in it. And I had a big box. And over the course of the show, I unwound all the tape and hung it on this portable coat rack, so that the blank space was gradually filled in with the tape, while gradually taking my clothes off. With the soundtrack was what I had spent the semester making, which was basically a collage of all my unfinished songs, which I had recorded into a tape recorder, and all shit I couldn't finish, interspersed with a fake interview that I did as interviewer and as someone talking about Amanda Palmer after she's dead and how much potential she had.
Oh my God.
And the show, and then at the end of the show, there's this big finale, and I tear the screen down, and I'm covered in blood, and I'm naked, and I'm screaming at the audience that I fucking hate myself. And it was awesome. And it was such a piece of college performance art. It was incredible. I did finish some of the songs. Some of those songs did wind up turning into Dress and Doll songs eventually, but it was super wanky.
That's really cool.
It was great. And I did it at Eclectic, because I was living at Eclectic, and I just did it, you know, it was a one performance deal. I never did any official shows with the theater department, and I never did any really official music stuff. I did a piece for, the class was called Postmodern Performances, with a parentheses bracket around the S. It was that kind of class. And we all had to do a project, and my project was I called One Woman Diane, and I showed up in 2 different places. One, when this used to be the campus center, so there was a lot of activity around it. I showed up naked and covered in blood, just lying. It's a theme. Just lying on the ground in front of the campus center. I just lay there for about 15 minutes. And then I went and did the same thing at a central table in the dining hall at peak dining hour. Yeah. And I had some volunteer friends come with me with tape recorders to just stealthily tape record people's reactions. And people had no reaction. Like, it's amazing. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I could have really capitalized on the blaseness of people's reactions, because I was sort of hoping that people would be like shocked and stunned and excited. But instead, people were like, "Oh, that she's taking one of those like performance art classes."
So Wesleyan.
Yeah, it was very Wesleyan.
That's really funny.
So that was exciting. And then the piece, like, final project was like photographs of the bloody dead naked body with a soundtrack looping of the, my early career as an experimental artist.
Cool.
Clearly I made the right decision and went into traditional rock and roll. I mean, I think I probably wrote a half a dozen to a dozen songs the entire time I was at college, which is not a lot. But a couple of them were really funny ones. Yeah. And one of them was my Fuck You Wesleyan song. And the whole song basically just makes fun of Wesleyan students. But yeah, I mean, my initial concept for the song was I wanted to write a mock Wesleyan fight song, and then I heard the actual Wesleyan fight song and it wasn't very interesting, so I just wrote a song about torching the school. The advice that I would give to anyone here in a band or a musician is the same advice I'd give to fucking anybody, and with one extra added note of you're close to New York, so go to New York and gig in New York, but the advice remains universal. Like, gig as much as possible, work very hard, and play in any space, and don't wait for anyone to create a space for you. Like, you actually have to, and that's also the great thing about college, is that there's kind of spatial opportunities and resources that you can kind of steal from that you don't get so much in the real world. So, you basically, if you're a band, like, make friends with everyone and then steal space in the theater department and steal a PA from the film department, and like steal everything you possibly can and put on a show anywhere you possibly can. And also make sure your music is good. That's number one.